Well, my friends, we are looking at the what should be cycle 4, and the last cycle we encountered a sloop that was provided by one of our platinums. I went ahead and did a video on how to create the sloop, and so I will then create a ship tag for it, and in the next video or in the near future we'll be putting it to use. I will also go through and show how we determine which platinum it was and what the implications for that might be. Meanwhile, I had already explored 20% of the system and 100% of the grassland, and I have yet to settle officially, and this would be, quote, cycle 4, so we can get away with still two more before, by the end of cycle 6, I have to make a decision or I'm going to start losing colonists. Now, what I did was I sent one of my mining ships to mine, and the other one went to the moon. The drop shuttle is currently docked because it's out of fuel and resources, and there's nothing we can do for that. Then I had my, so I'm going to show you, right, a few things. So I also noticed that I had an issue with the ship tags over here are just too dark for me to really read well what I got on them, which is never a good thing. And here's a trick I learned some years ago, and I got, if you ever seen anything on aircraft carriers and how they handle moving things around the decks and things like that, they have these little tags. Airport air controllers often use similar things. I come up with, I thought, the same idea. Another thing that I came up with was I went ahead and I ran strips of tape down the edges of the paper, and that way when I move these things from one place to the other, I'm not going to be tearing up the page all the time, and extends the life of the sheets themselves and the tags. In addition to all that, there is the added advantage that I used on the tags, read writable tape, which means that I can write on them and then erase them much simpler and easier than before. So we are, like I said, we are in cycle 4, which I'm going to put that down here, and I will have used 1 ton of fuel, 1 ton of food, fuel, oxygen, water to support the crew of my scout ship and my other ships. And since it's still maneuvering, I'm going to use another ton of fuel, which brings me down to 4, which also shows that if I don't colonize within 8 cycles, then my colonization effort is really hosed. I will be forced to colonize whatever planet or body that I'm orbiting if there's any way possible of doing that, because there is the possibility that that's not going to fly. And if that's true, then I have to begin again and start over, because that sometimes happens. So it is what it is. We are going to go ahead and use our scout ship to scout and make another roll of the solar system that we're already in, so we can get more of it established. Let's see if I can find a couple dice out of here. I should be a little bit prepared, better than I am, I can tell you that right now. And that's on me. My apologies for that. It's been I don't know, I have a lot of stressful weeks. This last week has been uneventful. Yesterday was quite stressful, and for personal reasons. And then I got shanghaied into going over to my sister's this afternoon to help her swap her stove out for another stove, which I don't really like. I not really wasn't on my agenda for doing things today. I also was asked to participate in something, and I'm not going to bring up any more on that, I think, because I learned the hard way a long time ago when certain things you're just better off not talking about until they actually happen. And we'll see how it goes and where it goes from there. So anyway, we have already did 20% of the system, so I'm going to make a D100 roll, and 95 was my result. And on my exploring a known solar system chart, 95 is roll ship traffic. So first thing I want to do is I want to acknowledge that I have 30% of the system explored. And then I'm going to see what kind of ship I've encountered. This will be the second ship I've encountered in this system. So you make what you will of that. Now, when rolling on certain rolls, you might, some rolls you add your house lord's modifier to it, and some you don't. And I think I made a statement in an earlier video about that, but I was not quite right. So when we're doing ship traffic rolls, we're not going to roll and add the planet, because he's a squire, so he has a -50. No, that would come into things like encountering pirates or any kind of opposing forces charts and certain other charts. So it's kind of something you learn over time, which ones to use and which one not to use. So we're going to roll to see which one of these two charts we're going to use, and that is a 12. So just on the regular ship traffic roll, and we rolled a 19, and 19 would be what? Class 2 Scout owned by a blank guild. Okay. So what I want to do, write my notes. Cycle 4. So based on class 2, that means a class 2 hull. So what we have is a heavy scout, or a long range scout. And if you look at when I was when you get a chance to see the video of designing the sloop, you get an idea. So a scout is based off the same concept that I used to create the sloop. The other side is that it's going to be more geared for exploration and potentially long range exploration. So it's going to have probably no major naval weapons, just gun-mounted weapons on it. I can't guarantee that. And I won't bother with rolling that ship up unless I absolutely have to. But over time, I've had my players and playtesters in the past, they enjoy doing that. This gives them, they get a folder, a notebook, and they just keep creating ships. And it gives them a repertoire of pre-made blueprints for various ships, and that they can just plug and play when they want. So we know it's a class 2 scout. It's a guild, but we don't know who or what guild yet. In order to do that, we would have to do either an investigation and or a negotiation to find out. So it has 3 possible options. So we're going to roll, and I got a straight 50. Straight 50 has been assigned to the local guild represent. Yeah, there's no guild in my. I haven't settled my planet yet. I have not had any guilds come in and establish themselves or an office on any of my planets, so that doesn't apply. So if none available, simply research and reconnaissance, and leaves the next cycle on. Leaves next cycle. So if I choose not to interact with it, then it's just going to go away and I don't have to worry about it, which is not necessarily a bad thing. I mean, at this point, I'm not in position to do any of this stuff just yet, but, you know, it's down here, neither here nor there. Okay, so in order to continue searching the system, I'm going to pull up and move my other scout from orbiting the grass planet. Yes, Frankie, everybody can hear you. Frankie's at the door trying to be let in. Since I ran over foot a couple Labor Day weekend, I'm leery to let her in here. I'll eventually get over that, I guess. I just keep an eye on her. So anyway, so I'm going to move this scout. Take the old tag off and chuck it. Yes, yes, Frankie, you're fine. Cycle 4. There's the wife yelling at her. Wife yelling at her again. Wife yells a lot. I don't know what else to do. Anyway, so this makes exploration roll 4. So we would then be 40% of the system explored. And that's a 15. And nothing. Like I said, other than burning up fuel and stuff, I'm not totally against that. And just because I really want to know what's going on in this system, I'm going to go ahead and use my second mining ship for an exploration role of the system. It's stuffy in this room today. I got a window open, but there's no air outside. There's no movement, and the AC is off, so there's no fan moving inside the room. And I used to keep a fan in here, but the wife borrowed it for something else and gets upset if I move it. So I'm kind of, guess I'm hit. Just kind of screwed. All right, and we've used it for the fuel there, or for the now because I'm using a Tech 1 hull. It has 3 Tech 1 star drives, which means it's using 3 tons of fuel every time I move it. I've already used 3, so 4. We used up half of our fuel on this ship. And that's fine, because this will bring us to 50% of the solar system. And ideally, I like to have the system that potentially I'm going to settle fully explored, because in irony, the grassland, like I said, is a good world to start out with. I'm not saying it's not, but I've run into other places that have had better. And my first shot turned out to be less than ideal, and then I find later on, deeper in the same system, a much better world, and it kind of plays out that way. So 90, let's see, 79. 79 is roll once on the ship traffic chart. There is a lot of ship traffic in this system. Yeah. 70, 76. Yeah, that would be a guild roll. 76. A lot of guild traffic in this system too. I don't know if that's good or bad. We will find out down the road. 1. A rogue Imperium warship arrives. Great. The Imperium is the human government that runs the galaxy as we know it. And the Imperium is this big, ubiquitous bureaucracy that is so far away from the frontier that you have minor encounters with them. But for the most part, they leave you on your own to do your own business until later on. If you really get well developed, then things can change. For the most part, it's like going around throwing showing the flag and stuff. So anyway, we have a small subchart here that tells us various things that this rogue ship could be doing. And in this case, it says, roll the hull class. Don't forget to apply your noble status modifier. Captain is known in the services of Maverick and jumps to his own agenda, which is, quote, one of these rolls. Now, when I said earlier about using your ship, your House Lord's modifier. So in this case, we now have an Imperium ship, and its size is yet to be determined, and I don't really need to do that this cycle because I'm not going to interact with it yet. If it sticks around, then I may have to do that. But I would roll when I go to determine its hull size. There's a chart. There's a chart for just about everything, and I would apply the -50. So I would roll for whatever my number would be minus 50. So ideally, it's going to be something that's on the scale of my own capabilities. That way, this works for both your opposing forces, guilds, and Imperium, things like this. So the odds are this is just a scout or a sloop that's nosing around the system for whatever reasons yet to be determined. So we'll find out and see what's going on. And I rolled 90. Seen meeting with a blank known to the House Fringe Group for unknown reasons. Couldn't be an investigation. Well, I don't have any of those, and I don't know any of that stuff, so I don't think that's... I rolled 90. Just leave it at that, because I don't have any of those yet determined, so I don't think that matters. Anyway, that brings us back to the grassland. And I'm going to roll another mining roll for the grassland. That way I can keep mining until I fill the mining ship up. That way when I do settle, and I'm most likely going to settle this planet, I can set up the exchange and I'll already have some material to put in the exchange to start generating some income off of, or to use for builds. So we already have oxygen 7, 1D, so now we have 12. Water 9, those 2 before, 7, so AR 6 now. MU 15. And 8. So 14. And 1 makes 4. And that's pretty much that. Till next time, guys. Have a great weekend.